Today, we have a special guest who will be discussing how climate change affects refugees worldwide. One is a passionate climate activist who is taking action with youth and communities. Two, as the CEO and executive director of the organization The Leads, which he founded in 2021. And three, as a refugee from South Sudan who was forced to flee from home due to conflicts.
Many people are being displaced because of this issue, environmental change. So many organizations already reported showing that 72% and more of displaced people in the past few years, have been related to climate change. And this is a serious increase that happened, more than 20% increase in the last 10 years. Now is in the center of all the aspects of our lives. If you see these cross-cutting arrows here, the middle of it is climate change. That's really what I mean to it now. It affects peace. It affects our human rights. It affects development activities. And now definitely our environment, which is our buildings, our infrastructures get destroyed when climate changes. So if you see from these pictures, you will realize that the people who are vulnerable suffer severely. And when we talk about vulnerable people, who suffer and who are the most vulnerable now in this case? The people who are displaced. They experience climate change everywhere, both from the countries of origin that situation have been escalated due to war and conflict, but also everywhere they go, because environment is where is like the first support to them, is the first aid to them. That's what they first use to survive on. So that means as they keep using them, environment keep changing. In my country, South Sudan, in the past, we have never witnessed a situation of 57-degree temperature, to an extent where the government closed schools. So people go home because children can no longer stay in class. Because our classes are not like where we can have ACs, no ACs. The classrooms are made of grass thatches and hoods, very hot. If I'm to describe that clearly, my country doesn't have electricity power as well to run some of this technology of stabilizing temperature. So you can imagine the situation of children, people dying because of heat. This was something that never existed. Situation of our country escalated through because there's been long years of conflict, and we all know how destructive is conflict to environment. I don't know, maybe I think I should explain others. I've also been a child soldier at some stage. I was abducted, and I know what happened in conflict situation. I know how they destroy environment very well. We also see this in bombing places, that when we watch them in videos, people destroy environment using bombs, all this. And they don't replace, they have no mercy on the environment. People come and destroy things that they think make some people happy. So they cut down trees unnecessarily. They destroy all the fruits that people planted. So they burn bushes intentionally. They burn forests, the areas that used to be reserved. So that is what happens in conflict situations, and you see our environment suffers. When I notice a lot of coexistence challenge between refugees and host communities, the communities that used to live together, that used to be very hospitable, now begin to fight among themselves because they are all struggling to access the same resources from the environment. And ultimately, the environment lost its carrying capacity. We may say there are other alternatives, like other actions to be done, but the real tangible actions is really planting trees and restoring the environment and improving the livelihoods of the people who are most affected, people who are at the front line of the climate crisis. we destroy a tree, we need to plant it back immediately. We plant another. Maybe a little action can count, and that really became meaningful. So through the group of refugees that we studied with, I then decided to bring them all together, and we mobilize ourselves. And then let's say, okay, let's go and do this. Let's plant trees. And then later on, the active engagement led to our foundation of the organization called the Leads, through and can be sustained by the people affected somehow. This also is something that many organizations working, international organizations working in refugee settlements, in refugee contexts, are getting a lot of problems in the effectiveness of the work they do. Why? Because in most cases these works are not sustainable. I am happy that they are realizing that, and now there is the best way they are using to sustain those is now they use the community-based organizations, refugee-led organizations, to sustain and take over some implementations. And that is really working now. We gave them tree seedlings, we gave them charcoal stoves, energy saving stove to use. And then they started seeing the beauty of environment when they plant trees. They started seeing some reliability in rainfall. They started seeing, when wind comes, the trees is really stopping the strong wind from destroying their shelters and all that. So the sweetness started coming, but after a long period of time. I simply believe in even the person affected to do something. Reactions of people when I do my work. Reaction has been a bittersweet situation from the beginning. I was disturbed, I was persecuted somehow for doing what I love to do, like for telling people not to cut trees. Assuming this one, the people eat and get income from cutting trees. And that is what they actually used to do good, to take their children to school, to buy clothing for them, to improve their life, to eat, so that they are doing, for the good purpose. And so you're stopping it. They feel like you are killing them. So it was a big threat to me. I lived with a community of people who my community treat that. They are very violent and they caused the torturing of our community, in our country, South Sudan. The people in our region and the other people in the other region, conflict came and the other people in our region came and killed so many people in my region. So when I'm in the camp and when I'm in school, I stay with all of this. And my people say, why am I staying with the people that tortured our people? So I say, no, it is not these people. It is the rebel and forging way forward with the limited and the most limited resources available, which started through the film that I produced. It was on peaceful coexistence. But this conflict between refugees and host communities started through environmental, change, fighting for the limited resources. So when I brought characters from different communities, I brought characters from host communities, the conflicting, and the refugee community. When I brought them together, after we produced the film, and I started the initiative of community film screening. So this same film that I produced, I moved to the community and have a projector and display the film to them for them to watch, for the communities to watch. And when they watch the film, I ask them questions. And I hear from them. Why do we see conflict every day like this? And what are the possible solutions? So they bring suggestions and all this. They successfully agreed that instead of just battling among ourselves, we just need to do a 50-50 role to our environment. We just need to take actions and no need to fight. So I was happy that since then, there has been a very, very peaceful coexistence between refugee and host communities. And I've never seen that form of conflict again. So there's been currently negotiation between refugees and host communities in getting land for cultivation. But the challenge now only is the overall climate change that has already occurred that makes the land very dry. Some countries are not really seeing the destruction that is happening to their environment because they are really not destroying the environment. They're making it safe. They're keeping it. They're restoring it. But we are less attentive to know that what takes place in the other side of the world, as long as it affects the environment, it affects the entire planet. So that's why the weather-focused people, the people who deal with the weather, when they draw the current map after the climate change, the world is turning into fire. The message of environmental action should not be a myth or even a political issue or even left to environmentalists. It's everyone's responsibility to act on the environment and safeguard the environment. It's just the same like when you build your house. No one is responsible for, the beauty and the safety of your house. So our world is like the house that we live in, that its safety and beauty depends on our contributions, and our contribution brings back that beauty and safetiness to us. So we must acknowledge that it is a personal responsibility for everybody